Well, good morning, everybody. It's really absolutely brilliant to be here. This is my first TED Talk, so I'm really very, very excited. And I think today we're talking about the future. So I'm going to be talking about the future of the workplace. Social intelligence versus artificial intelligence. So what is social intelligence? We've all heard of intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, but social intelligence is fairly similar, but it also means knowing the rules. And hopefully it's something that too many robots won't be able to learn. Because if you think of the number of jobs that are already being filled by artificial intelligence, it can be quite frightening. The motor industry, for instance, most of the workforce there, or a lot of the workforce, are now robots. If you think of farming, intelligent tractors, milking machines that milk themselves, vacuum cleaners that you just turn on and they do all the work, which I have to say I think is a very good idea, but also computers, smartphones, Alexa, Google, we use them enormously already. And I love AI, I must say. I love the technology. I'm sure you do too. But it's already having an effect on us as human beings, on how we actually communicate and react to each other. Because we can never forget that we are human, we have unique properties that hopefully robots, AI, will never actually achieve. So what am I talking about? The smartphone is one of the greatest inventions in the 20th century. I've had one for probably over 30 years in their various sort of migrations. But I notice now that they are beginning to stop the way people communicate with and to each other. Our concentration spans are getting shorter, and we are losing the ability to actually use our social intelligence. So, what is social intelligence? Social intelligence actually encompasses body language. Now, you all heard of body language, but what am I actually talking about? Posture, gestures, voice, and appearance. Posture. For instance, if I stand like this, you might think, really, I'm quite arrogant. If, on the other hand, I came in and started talking using body language of this kind, you'd think I wasn't really an expert or very competent in what I was going to say. So to be relaxed, to know how you stand, to know what your posture is like, because we make up 90% of our minds about somebody within the first 3 seconds of seeing them. The second thing we notice, apart from our posture, are our clothes. So I'm going to come on to that a little bit later, but clothes are very much part of social intelligence. Gestures. If we're going to make gestures, then we've got to make sure that they are the right ones. Negative body language, unfortunately, there are far more negative signs than there are positive signs. So we have to make sure that we avoid the negatives if we can. For instance, this sort of thing, hand washing, usually denotes nervousness, or it can denote anger and anxiety. Finger tapping, foot drumming, usually denotes anger, but on the other hand, it could be that somebody just is humming a happy tune, standing there, just quite happy. So again, it's not just the gestures we're looking at the whole person, we're looking at the face, we're looking at the body. If you're moving about a lot, especially when people are public speaking, it usually means lack of preparation. It certainly means anxiety or nervousness. Scratching the head. If we're worried, if we're anxious, if we're angry, our scalp becomes itchy, we start to scratch it. On the other hand, if you've got children at school, or if you've been somewhere, you could easily have nits as well. So you can't actually, just by looking at the language, your social intelligence has to tell you what it might mean, along with the other gestures that we're using. Licking the lips. That usually denotes nervousness, because when we're nervous, the saliva dries up, the throat can go into spasm, which can be very embarrassing. But you could have a cold. I've got a slight cold, so the mouth dries up anyway. Rubbing the nose, rubbing the eyes. Again, you could have an allergy. But these are negative signals, which we have to avoid at all costs. Anyone who's read body language book will know that standing with the arms folded is a negative position. The reason we stand like this when we are nervous or frightened or even angry is because this is the only part of our body that is not protected by a skeleton. So if somebody really wanted to drive a knife into my vital organs, here would be the place. But a lot of people actually like standing like that. They find it very comfortable. But again, it is actually a gesture to be avoided in case it gives the wrong sort of signals. Hands in pockets, slouching. Again, it's not very respectful. If you want to get on with somebody, you come forward as much as you can. You stand up, you look them in the eyes. And therefore, shifty eye contact, looking over the shoulder, not looking at somebody, means you don't really want to engage with them. And work-wise, that can be a real disaster. Because if you're trying to get a client, if you're trying to talk to people, if you're trying to give information, then we have to make sure we are engaging with that person, and eye contact is one of the most important things. That is one of the most positive body language signals, and smiling. A smile can be recognized 30 meters away, and around the world through human beings, it is considered a sign of friendship. So a smile is important. 3 S's are quite interesting to learn. When you're making a speech, if you're going for a job interview, if you've got an important meeting, don't rush in. I would say outside the door, or just before you come in to make a speech, you stop and breathe, you smile, and then you walk in. Once you've got that smile, it does send a signal to your brain to say that everything is okay. So stop, smile, and start are 3 good things to remember. Let's look at our voice now. The voice is one of our most important assets. How many of you listen to your voices? If you take nothing, great. If you take nothing away from today, you've all got smartphones which have very good microphones. Please get to know your voice. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice, not even me, and I do an awful lot of talking. So what you have to do is know how fast you speak. I always speak faster than I think I do, even though I practice speaking slower. The length of a pause. If you really want somebody to listen and to take in what you've said and take that information on board properly, a pause can be a great asset. But the use of your voice, we all have wonderful voices with ranges of this much. Most of us use that much. And mumbling like this is not going to help anybody at all. Clarity of speech is very, very important. You have to open your mouth when you're speaking, otherwise people can't understand what you're saying. If I spoke to you in the same dull, boring voice because either I didn't bother to use any expression or I hadn't bothered to listen to myself or I'm very nervous, you wouldn't listen to me with any interest for very long. So the way you use your voice can fascinate people, can inspire people, can motivate people, the voice and the body. Because if I'm using my body language, I really want you to take this on board, my body comes forward. And I make sure that I give you vocal signposts so you can easily understand and keep up with what I'm saying. So, clarity, accents don't matter, but clear speech does. And especially with people wearing headphones, earphones, some of us are getting deafer younger than we should be if their very loud music is constantly playing. So opening the mouth, allowing people to lip read, and allowing the sound to come out and finishing our words, stressing what is important, then that helps people understand. Appearance, clothes. Again, going back to this business of actually making the right impression. If you turn up for a job interview as a man in a shirt that's creased, not ironed, probably a button missing, scruffy shoes, you're saying that you don't really care about yourself, so you certainly won't care about the job. So we have to dress appropriately. I like to wear something different always because I want people to look at me and I want people to remember me, especially if I'm making a speech. Bright colours stand out if you're comfortable in them. So think about what you wear. Think about where you're going. Think about the appropriateness. Now again, although robots can already meet us, hello, please come through here, and you come and sit down, when we meet and greet, it's skin on skin. Thank goodness the handshake has not gone out of fashion yet. And so a handshake is very important. It should be strong, not a bone crusher, but equal. So you never give your hand like that, and you don't allow anyone to turn your hand. You turn your hand up so that we are equal when we shake hands. We look somebody in the eye, and the greeting is good morning, good afternoon, hello. Not hiya, if you want to be professional. And smile, and often repeat the name. So I might say, hello, I'm Diana Mather. Paul might say, hello, I'm Paul. I say, hello, Paul, how lovely to see you. So I've repeated his name in the hope that I might remember it. Because remembering names, if you can get that into your heads now at your age, is a great skill. And people really appreciate the fact that you remember them, because it means you have actually made an impression. So meeting and greeting, shaking hands, smiling, introducing others. If you introduce somebody to somebody, give a little bit of information. There's no point in saying, Jack, this is Chloe. Chloe, this is Jack. Jack's just come to live in Chester. He actually comes from Roehampton. I know you used to live in London, didn't you, Chloe? So that you've actually given them something to talk about. Then you can leave the conversation. How many of you ever get stuck in a conversation and in a group? People find it very difficult often to leave a group politely. So the social intelligence here is you just thank them. It's been so nice to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I'm just going to catch so-and-so before he or she leaves. I'll see you later. So don't get stuck. If you're going to events, make sure you meet as many people as possible. Use this social intelligence and read the body language. Now, there are three things, the three L's, that also are very important in life in general, but especially if we're going to communicate well. They sound very obvious. Look, listen, and learn. So looking at somebody in the eyes and looking at their body language. They may be smiling, but if they're actually standing like this, it means that they haven't got long to talk to you. So you don't monopolise their conversation if they start shifting about because they really want to go somewhere else. Listening. Most of us don't listen properly today. And that's why I always say smartphones should be out of sight, out of your pocket for networking events, parties, dinners, meetings. If you've got something in your pocket that is vibrating, you're constantly thinking, oh, I wonder who that might be, or I never got back to so-and-so. And you're nodding politely at the person you're talking to, but you're not actually listening to what they have said. You also have to listen to what they're saying and what they're not saying. And that's where, again, the body language of nodding, smiling, encourages people to talk. And that is really important, especially if you are interviewing for a job, or if you're going for a job, or just meeting anyone. Encouraging them to talk, to actually open up, gives you much more of an idea of their personality. But if you're not listening, if you haven't really heard what they've said, if you haven't been watching their body language, then you won't be able to use that in the conversation, because what we have to do is learn from what we have seen and said and heard, and then bring that into how we're going to continue that conversation, what questions we're going to ask. If it's a sales meeting, it gives you an idea, if you listen properly, look properly, how committed somebody might be. So it's so important to consider the social intelligence, which I hope that artificial intelligence will never really quite catch up with, because when it comes down to it, some jobs are going to be done by robots, by some sort of artificial intelligence. And we as human beings have got to make sure we keep up our USP of being able to read each other, being able to empathise with each other, being able to amuse each other and entertain each other, and have intelligent conversations with each other. So that is something that I hope you will all be able to take away. This is a very, very big subject, and I've only been able to touch on the surface, obviously, today. But thank you very, very much indeed, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody else's talk. Thank you.